start with a word of prayer? Yes, my dear brethren, let us now go for a word of prayer. Gracious loving Father, be with us as we enter into your word. Please help us to show the horribleness of this judgment based upon flawed logic, and help us to follow what you say in spirit and in truth, since you have your divine rights and we must submit to you. These mercies we ask of you, thanking you for hearing us and blessing us. Amen. Amen. Okay, first of all, let me say, this is the judge's final judgment, and it's 14 pages long. 14 pages long. And in this, sexual intercourse is redefined. And buggery is redefined. We have to ask ourselves which human being has the authority to do that. So I will kind of shorten what I have to present here in this document by first asking you to turn to Jude 7. Jude 7. Jude 7. And let's read what in Jude 7 says here. Now the reason why I am showing this about Jude 7 is because the excuse usually given to us is that Sodom and Gomorrah was not destroyed for sodomy, they tell us. They tell us it was destroyed for fullness of bread and all these sorts of things. And they cite Ezekiel 16. Now, we can't go through this and read that now, but you take up your Bible and read Ezekiel 16, and you see Ezekiel 16 is not speaking about Sodom. It is speaking about the 10 tribes of Israel, whose capital was Samaria, and God is likening them unto Sodom. But we must remember that the 10 tribes were not a nation, the 10 tribes were not a nation overridden with buggery. But they had other sins that Sodom had. And that's why God referred to them that way. So when they quote Ezekiel 16 to you and tell you, well look, it wasn't that wasn't the reason why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because of sodomy. Tell them you're reading the wrong chapter and the wrong book. Go to Jude 7. Let's read. I quote, even as Sodom and Gomorrah, did you see that? Yes. And the cities about them, did you see that? Yes. So that's a whole region. Yes. It's not just cities, it's a whole region. In like manner, giving themselves over to fornication. The word is porneo, it means whoredom, all kind of sexual corruption. But then the Bible singles out one particular one. It says, giving themselves over to fornication or whoring and going after strange flesh. Did you see that? Yeah. Are set forth for what? An example. What? Suffering the vengeance of what? Eternal fire. Now in this address of flawed judicial logic, we are addressing Trinidad and Tobago. We are addressing Jason Jones. We are addressing Justice Devendra Rampersad. And we are also addressing Charlene Williams, an attorney at law who also did research for that judge. We are addressing also the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And we are addressing, of course, our loving brethren here. And finally, we are addressing those who want to practice buggery, whatever nice name you call it. Remember, you don't identify a community by the sex act. You don't say the heterosexual community. You don't say the pedophile community. You don't say the incest community. So stop calling them community, they are not. It's just bad sexual practice, which is no sex at all. And we will show you. So we are addressing all of you all, because portions of this will go on television. We are addressing all of you all with regards to this. Now, from God's view, sodomy, called robbery, pusher. From God's view, sodomy or robbery is a destructive pursuit, in that it destroys the moral health of a people. Indeed, legislation and the laws of a nation have as the objective the preservation of the moral health of a people, without which a society and nation could not survive. That is the aim of legislation. They must also think about the moral health of a people, without which a nation cannot survive. And you, Mr. Rampasad, should know that. Look at Romans 1, 27 to 32. Just before that. Turn to Genesis 13, 12 and 13. Genesis 13, 12 and 13, and then we will turn to Romans 1. Is it wrong? We read. It says this. We read. Abraham dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent towards Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before Yahweh exceedingly. Did you see that? You get no description of any ancient cities like that. The Bible speaks about the city of the Hivites, the cities of the Amorites, but it never describes them that way. Here we are being told these people were extremely wicked and sinners exceedingly. Why would God do that? Why would he say that about these people? Because their unnatural sin creates moral destruction. Now you look at Romans 1 and 3. Romans 1. And when I read Romans 1, I want to ask which justice, which attorney is going to tell me society can survive if these things happen to everyone. I want them to tell me which one can survive. Let's read Romans 1, 27 to 32. Quote, and likewise also the men living in natural use of the woman, burned in them in their lust, one towards another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves the recompense of their errors, which was meet. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a what? Reprobate mind, to do those things which are not what? Now you see the Bible also already giving you logic here. From the moment you start to practice sodomy, you don't want to keep God in your knowledge. Because you know he's against it. When you take out something, whatever you call it, and another person turns behind, immediately you know you're doing something that is not natural, and you know God is against it. And the moment you justice know that God is against it, and you lawyer know that God is against it, you know you have to fight against Christianity to justify it. That's why sodomites are natural Christian phobic. Sodomy is natural actually Christian-phobic. Because it is Christianity that is purported sex the right way. So you know that. So the moment you go into the room, you don't want to keep God in your knowledge. And if there is no God there, evil angels will ravish you. That's why the Bible explains the result of that. Let's read on. It goes on. To do those things which are not convenient. Being filled with all unrighteousness. Son? Which society could survive with that? Fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, contention, that is the word debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, what else? Obviously, which I am asking Justice Lampasad, do you want to live next door to such people? I am asking all of you in the legal fraternity, are you willing to live next to such people that do those things? Then why are you creating that condition here? Why are you doing that? There is no benevolent communism. There is no benevolent cultural Marxism. There is no benevolent secularism. There is only a benevolent God. And if you don't have the benevolent God, you will do any evil. You'll be extremely cruel. Let's read on. I'm still asking you, justices, if you like this kind of people to live by. Continuing. Let's read verse 30. Backbiters, haters of God, disrespectful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things. So you want somebody to invent a thing that when you're now going to walk in your house, your feet get cut off. That is what you want justices? You want people to invent evil things? You want to live by people like that? You go in your house, you sit down and eat your bacon and eggs and drink your alcohol and feel, okay, good, I have made $1 million in my judgment or whatever. But the next person next door plotting to kill you because of the kind of foolish judgment you make. Yes. But you want to endanger all of us when you're supposed to protect us. Yes. It goes on. Inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents. Oh my God. So then everybody must have in the country children being disobedient to parents. Then how could you manage them? How could you grow them up? They're so small and they do as if they built the house already. It goes on. Without understanding. So okay, justice, you're walking down the road and a person says with a gun, give me your money. And he says, but I can't. I am now going to the hospital with my wife because she's sick. The bandit says, come again? He said, but I have to carry them to the hospital. He said, what again? Is that what you want? But that's what you are creating. Yes. But wait, it says here, without understanding, covenant breakers. Oh! So you all want to draft laws for people to follow, but yet still you're doing things that will make people break those same laws. Yes. Yes. Covenant breakers. It goes on. Without natural affection. So you, justice, have you ever seen how sodomites are cold people? Yes. They try to smile, they try to laugh, they try to be affectionate, but know them personally. And when you have been brutalized in those sensuous nerves behind there, when you have been brutalized there, you can't be affectionate. Yes. And sodomite cannot genuinely love a person because the first time you see a man, you must think about something more. Yes. And they saw with another woman. So they are without natural affection. So justice, do you want your daughter to face a man and he's cold like stone? And say he will marry her because she has money from the father. But at the same time he likes sodomy. You see, the point about it is, It is something that destroys your natural affections. And this is God saying that. I know some of you justices will say, oh no, that's Paul speaking. Well, Paul didn't speak from Paul. Amen. He spoke from God. Amen. And it goes on. It says here, implacable, unmerciful. Did you hear that? Yes. Implacable. And what else? Unmerciful. Implacable means they are always disagreeing with you. They are always disagreeing with you. So just as you say, sex is now sex per annum. But they create that, and the same person will have to now disagree with you. Yes. Because everything they disagree with. That's what the Bible says. You create a society where people cannot agree with each other. And when you create a society where people cannot agree with each other, what are you going to do here? Yes, brother, quickly.
They create a law in America to silence people and come back in the same thing and disagree and tell it to protest it openly.
Amen.
It's happening right now in America.
But notice it also says unmerciful. Do you think Sodomites have mercy for people? No. They don't. If you as a man for long and a Sodomite look at you, the first thing comes to his mind is corrupt thoughts. Yes. They're unmerciful people. This is what God says. They're unmerciful. And you are creating a state like that by justifying buggery. Well, whatever you want to call it, sex per annum, but it's still buggery. Yes. So as far as the Bible is concerned, sodomy, which is buggery, threatens what? The moral health of our people. Amen. That's what your Bible shows you. The Bible also shows you that it threatens the physical health of our people. Amen. Go back to Romans 1 again. Amen. Yes, my dear brother.
Yeah, but really, this was from it. This the end result. You find that end result of a transgressing law of war. Because you come like eating pepper, right? Eating cayenne pepper, or something, you say, no, make some kumbu pepper. But after it is, you just want addicted to it, you might burn up all yourself and you might say, like this thing. I mean, you might from one extreme to the next extreme, that's the result.
Imagine that. So now let's look at verse 24 to 27. Watch this. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. And this is the reason why, let me warn you, do not take any excuse for their sodomy. Yes. Whether it is society, whether it is neighbor, whether it is this parish family, whether it is broken family. I come from a broken family, but not that for sure. Amen. Not doing that for sure. I now became a Christian, a young Christian, and a guy who used to go to school with me comes and sits down with me, talking 4 hours to try to introduce me to it. And if he held gentle and affectionate, he tries to talk to seduce me. So I attack him back with his own time. I talk soft and gentle, but the truth. Until he gets frustrated and left. So you see, don't let them use those excuses. Because when they use those excuses, do you know they're given a justification for what they're doing? Yes. That's what they're doing. The real reason is lust. Yes. Lust. That is the real reason. If you get abused, go and get a woman. Yes. If you're making an excuse for sodomy as abuse, then there's something you like because of the abuse. Then why is it an excuse? It's just that simple. But watch this. It goes on. It says there's lust that is behind it. Okay? Verse 25. Who changed the truth of God into a lie and worship and serve the creature more than the creator, who is blessed forever. Amen, as Brother Shannon was talking about. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affection. You hear how the Bible describes it? The emotions is what? Vile. If a man has sexual feelings to another man, that is vile. Amen. That's what God says. That is vile. That is not nature. Amen. That is vile. Nurture. It goes on. We read. It says this. So this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their woman they change the natural use into that which is against nature. So here we have what they call lesbianism is also sodomy. Yes. Yes. But they change what they're doing into something that is against nature. Yes. So there may be penetration in different areas. And there may be penetration using different objects. Yes. But as far as the Bible is concerned, it's against nature. Right? Of course, we see no masculine bias here. Male and female all getting it. Yes. Amen, brethren? Amen. Now it goes on. No respect of person. It goes on. Watch this now. It says this here, verse 20. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them up to a reprobate mind. Sorry, I go too far. 27. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another. Men with men. Watch this now. Working that which is unseemly. Now here comes the part. And receiving in themselves the recompense of their error, which was necessary for me. So that would mean to say, as they take whatever they have and put it wherever they have, and those who bend down whatever they have and receive whatever they have, sorry for speaking so cool, especially Saturday, what do? You destroy your health. Yes. That is true. And so, sodomy, buggery, threatens the moral health of our people and the physical health of our people. These destroy what? I am sure you don't want to marry a man by the time he's 50 years old, he's ridden with all kinds of disease and he can't do anything. Sure you don't want to be married to a person like that. I'm sure you don't want to be married to a woman that when you're ready, she can't take your masculine touch. She finds you too rough. So you see, you're practicing and you damage yourself. And now that you damage yourself, you're now coming now to come and tell people we should accept what you are doing. Just as how we will not accept that we are God, we will not accept that.
Amen. I just want to remind you of the issue they had with the sexual toys and the banning of it. So Trinidad and Tobago was really, we really have to look at what's happening in our judiciary, where they were talking about we're going against our human rights, where what we can do in our bedroom by banning sexual toys. So we have to take cognizance of the fact that, exactly what the brother is saying.
You talk about bedroom and constitution. Bedroom and constitution. What should all people prefer that? Yes, my dear.
So, one of the arguments they also use is that in the Constitution, we have rights of freedom of expression. And freedom of expression don't only entails the way we speak and share our views. Freedom of expression also entails what they do in their bedroom, the buggery, right? So they claim, because when we show the argument that they can't, men and women.
What is the expression?
The way they have sex.
With an animal?
No, with the partner.
So only that is freedom of expression for them?
According to them, yes. So
having it with your daughter is not freedom of expression too? With an animal is not freedom of expression too? Why are you limiting it there? What if the boy is 21 years old and his sister is 20 years old and they decide to do it in a private bedroom? That's not freedom of expression too? To be family-like? Yes. It's all sort of foolish nonsense to you. But you see, when you try to defend the indefensible, you destroy your what? Your logic. Remember that, watch in your environment, you will see that all around you. When you try to defend something that is what? Indefensible, what do? You destroy your logic.
Yes. On another note, one of their very famous sodomite persons in Trinidad, I believe there was a radio station host just recently, a transgender. I can't remember his name, a transgender who was a radio personality. I think it's Ria or something. So Ria, right? He went on YouTube and saying that many of the sodomite men in Trinidad have diseases. He says that most of the sodomite people in Trinidad have AIDS and they have diseases and they're looking and they're out for young boys. They're looking for fresh meat. So any young boys come out who is sodomite, they're going after them and spreading the diseases.
Okay, what this sister said is so true. This was the next video I was going to show you here. So I could only show you little portions because of the time. Please, watch this. Watch this. Watch how burglary laws are indeed what? Any law that is against burglary is a law that is for what? Burglary laws are what? Let you, the Ministry of Health, tell them so. And we are talking to you, the Ministry of Health, telling you, let them know that burglary laws are health laws. Watch.
My name is Konstantin Monastyrsky. I am an expert in forensic nutrition and the author of Gut Sense: How to Reverse and Prevent Constipation and Irregularity in Children and Adults. People often ask me this question: Mr. Monastyrsky, why does anal sex cause constipation? Anal sex causes constipation for exact same reasons that large stools cause it. The diameter of even a small erect penis is as large or larger than the maximum aperture of the anal canal. And if the penis is large and long, it also damages the rectum, which is quite small. And lubrication isn't much of a help because it isn't just the friction that does the damage, but the pressure inside the anal canal that affects anal sphincters, enlarges internal hemorrhoids, tears apart the delicate lining, and damages or desensitizes the supersensitive nerve endings of the anal plexus. In turn, these factors eventually cause pain during defecation and result in incomplete emptying of the bowels. This in turn enlarges stools even more and causes even more pain and often bleeding. From this point on, these problems turn into a pain in the ass, literally. There is really no good way to address the situation except to abstain from anal sex. There is really no good way to address the situation except to abstain from anal sex. There is really no good way to address the situation except to abstain from anal sex. There is really no good way to address the situation except to abstain from anal sex.
Well, it's a private part show, and here's an email from Janice in Fullerton, California. She writes, I enjoy having anal sex, but I want to know if there are any risks involved. Is it possible to get an STD in that area? I want to have fun, but I want to be safe. I'm glad she asked this question.
This is really important because, yes, you can definitely get an STD from anal sex. Pretty much all of them. HPV, herpes, HIV, chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis.
Anything you can get vaginally,
pretty much anything you can get.
And actually, it's a higher risk of transmission.
It's actually easier.
Yes, to get an
Hepatitis B
STD.
even.
Yep, and the reason that you can get transmission easier than vaginal penetration is because the lining in the rectum is much thinner and it can tear easier. There's a lot more blood flow around the rectum, so there's a higher transmission of any STDs that you can get vaginally, you can get rectally, and it's easier to transmit because tears can happen, and that the tissue.
It's a direct entry into your bloodstream. So
we know the connection to HPV and cervical cancer. We now know that it's linked to anal cancer as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's important in terms of what you mentioned about tears and hygiene. It's important to use lubricants because that area is very sensitive.
And it's also important to share that with your doctor, just because of what Dr.
That you're doing that.
Yes, because actually now for women, they're actually considering that you have a rectal pap smear. So it's important to make sure your doctor knows that you are engaging in anal intercourse.
Did you know that anal or rectal sex is dangerous? During rectal intercourse, the rectum becomes a mixing bowl for 1. Saliva and its germs or an artificial lubricant, 2. The recipient's own feces, 3. Whatever germs, infections, or substances the penis has on it, and 4. the seminal fluid of the inserter. Are you aware that tearing or bruising of the anal wall is very common during anal-penile sex? These substances gain almost direct access to the bloodstream. Unlike heavy sexual intercourse, in which sperm cannot penetrate the multilayered vagina, and no feces are present, rectal intercourse is probably the most sexually efficient way to spread hepatitis B, HIV, syphilis, and a host of other blood-borne diseases. Rectal sex is not exclusive only for homosexuals. Nevertheless, rectal sex surveys indicate that about 90% of gays have engaged in rectal intercourse, and about 2/3 do it regularly. In a 6-month-long study of daily sexual diaries, gays average 110 sex partners and 68 rectal encounters a year.
The anus was not designed for sex. Anal sex is too risky, and that involves potential discomfort and risk to both partners. The only advantage is not getting pregnant. The disadvantages are rectal tears, which can be painful and makes it easier for infections to reach the bloodstream. This also facilitates transmission of sexually transmitted diseases like human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, human papillomavirus, HPV, herpes, gonorrhea, etc., allergic procolitic, inflamed rectum. As a result of lubricants, some will have severe anal pain after sex, etc. Bear in mind that the anus is the passageway of stools. Stools have billions of coliform bacteria, and most if not all of these kinds of bacteria can potentially invade the bloodstream and cause serious, life-threatening infections. To make myself clear, personally, I would never suggest anal sex. There are too many disadvantages, and these is medically risky behavior, even if condoms are used as barrier for sexually transmitted diseases. The conclusion, I will say, about my experience: anal sex, it is dirty. Since an anus is an anus, whether it be straight, gay, male, or female. I'm curious as to how clean it is. I mean, you are putting something is in a butthole where fecal matter comes out.
Hey guys, it's Dr. George here, and today I just wanted to do a brief report on one of the sessions today from the Australasian HIV and AIDS conference here in Adelaide. Now, it's a very interesting topic and one that's kind of a very important one to me, and that is the connection between men who have sex with men, HIV, and anal cancers. So here's the deal, right? There's a particular virus that called the common wart virus called HPV, or human papillomavirus. This is what we screen for when we're doing pap smears in women. This particular virus is also associated with anal cancers, throat cancers, and cervical cancers as well. But in men who have sex with men, they are at much increased risk of developing anal cancers. If you are HIV negative, the risk of anal cancers is 20 to 40 times the risk. And if you are HIV positive, that's a 100-fold risk. Now, to put that into context, that is higher than the risk of breast cancer, prostate cancer, and lung cancer. So this is a really significant problem that is emerging within the gay community. Now, the next part is that we need to start screening our guys for anal cancers, because normally anal cancers will show up with bleeding from the bum, pain in the bum, or this sensation of a lump in the bum, or that you can't completely empty your bowels. So I will urge any guy that notices a lump in the bum, bleeding from the bum, or pain in the bum, go and see your doctor straight away. However, what we know is that if we detect these changes in the bum before they get too big, before they're bigger than say 1 centimetre, the treatment is very, very straightforward. We just cut it out. We may not even need to do things like radiotherapy or chemotherapy. But the bigger they are, the harder they are to treat. So we have to get checking this stuff out. The easiest way to check for an anal cancer is to have a finger placed up into the bum. Now, these cancers develop not very far into the bum, so it's not like they need to use special equipment or anything like that. A finger is perfectly fine. And a finger can detect a lump that is smaller, and they're saying, less than 1/2 centimetre, but it depends. I suppose it depends on the operator. But so when you next get a sexual health screening, I would urge you to talk with your doctor about
having anal sex puts you at higher risk of ongoing anal leakage, says study. Anal sex can feel really good if you do it right, but it turns out butt play could have a seriously nasty side effect. According to a new study published in the American Journal of Gastroenterology, anal sex is linked to an increased risk in fecal incontinence, pooping your pants in both women and men. For the study, researchers at the University of Alabama at Birmingham Department of Medicine analyzed data from the 2009 to 2010 National Health and Nutrition Examination surveys, which included 4,170 adults ages 20 to 69, and they found that 37% of women said they had had anal sex compared to approximately 5% of dudes. Sadly, these ladies are more likely to experience fecal incontinence once a week than women who said they don't engage in anal sex, say the researchers. And BTW, the researchers defined fecal incontinence as leakage of mucus, liquid, and/or solid stool occurring at least monthly. Awesome. Overall, the rates of fecal incontinence were higher in women who reported having anal sex 9.9% than those who didn't 7.4%. Men who reported having anal sex had a higher instance of butt drip than men who said they didn't, too. So how exactly does anal sex make you more, open to leaking poop? Here's the deal, anal intercourse could dilate and eventually stretch the internal and external anal sphincters, leading to damage of these structures, as demonstrated by the lower resting pressure, write the study authors. This lower pressure and possible damage to the internal and external anal sphincters could lead to fetal incontinence via muscle atrophy and sensory deficits. One important fact worth pointing out, the study didn't look at how often someone engages in anal sex, so they can't say whether it takes just one time to up your chances or if it's something you have to do on a regular basis to be at risk.
the lubricants and all. Yes. This cause the problem, Yes. And you notice the lubricants itself does not stop you from getting the injury. Okay? Remember, this guy is a sodomite. And I want you to hear a testimony of a sodomite now. He's actually a sodomite. By the way, one of the biggest destruction of health, like you can even get, is where all this foreign matter in your behind with all the disease gets into your bloodstream. Remember the tearing of the walls in the anal, it is so narrow that from the time you get a bruising and blood start to come out, know that the disease in there already get where. That is why we have a lot of walking septic tanks around the place. Sodomites are walking septic tanks. And while the justice here says he's concerned that the Ministry of Health wouldn't have some kind of a increase in budget, you bet they will have increase in budget. So they might as well from the budget one day put more for health. Okay? Beautiful. That is why I'm saying, next time you meet a sodomite and you tempt you, ask him, are you wearing diapers?
Let's talk about why it is impossible to find a gay man who is a bottom over the age of 50 who is successful, healthy, and in love. It's a perspective about anal intercourse, but a perspective that is important for me to share with you. Why should you listen to this? I came out at 19 years old. I'm 41 right now, so I've been 100% gay all my life. I've had all kinds of sex, experimentation, lovers, and I coach 24/7 gay professionals from all kinds of different backgrounds. And I'm noticing a pattern. I wrote an article about this many years ago, and I had a kind of ridiculous response to that article, simply that for whatever reason, anal intercourse is not subject to conversation amongst the LGBT people out there. For whatever reason, everybody is avoiding this conversation, and I'd like to take a moment to share this information with you because it is important to talk about this. Why is anal intercourse exempt from conversations, examination, and introspection? It's very important to know what I'm going to share with you. And what I have found is that men who end up bottoming for a long amount of time, say 20 years or 30 years, they actually destroy their health. They either become HIV positive or they end up just really unhealthy and single and frustrated. The things about anal intercourse that people need to understand is that every time it happens, whether you use a condom or not, what's happening is what's called blood sepsis. Blood sepsis is a contamination of the blood through the fecal matter that's inside of the rectum. And so whether you use a condom or not, unprotected sex or not, it doesn't matter. Every time that you have anal intercourse, your blood is contaminated with fecal matter. And what that causes is over an extended amount of time, a certain autoimmune disorder, the immune system has to fight it off on an ongoing basis. And so what we see over the course of many years, the men that participate in anal intercourse, or they call them power bottoms, or men that really are into the insertive sex, they really do not do well. They do not do well. They're either HIV positive, they either have lots of health problems and serious health problems that you never hear about because they never tell you that, and they are very rarely in healthy relationships. So a challenge I'd like to ask you to do is to find a gay man who is a bottom, who also is successful, healthy without HIV and without any health problems, and who is in love. And I don't believe you're gonna find one. I don't believe they exist. And that's why I wanted to share this with you, because the anal intercourse concept, in my opinion, I would refer to it as a dangerous hobby. It's not sexuality, really. It's a lot of things happening that people don't understand. It's the archetype of insertion that is taken from straight people in an environment where their bodies are made for that and their template is made for that. And now we use it in gay relationships and we turn it into something totally non-sexual. It's no longer sexuality when we are mutilating our rectum and our bodies. It's no longer sexuality when people have contaminated blood with fecal matter. It's something entirely different. I do not participate in anal intercourse, whether as a top or as a bottom. I reject it. Yes, it is shameful. It is shameful to destroy myself through all kinds of mutilation and through blood sepsis, and also poppers that often come with it. People need to look into HIV and AIDS again and look into what poppers and how poppers really contribute to the cause for AIDS and all the really very complex diseases that come about from sexual practices of anal intercourse. So you've got poppers, you've got blood sepsis and mutilation that can lead to anal cancers. Look up anal cancers on Google and you will find there is an epidemic. So in this conversation, I wanted to introduce you to the complicated nature of the anal intercourse. A lot more things happening than you have been introduced to. Look up blood sepsis. Look up poppers and how they contribute to HIV and AIDS and what's been happening in the late 70s and early 80s. It was a poppers epidemic. People were taking poppers so much, and the poppers have almost killed these people and contributed to the infection or to the spread of AIDS-related diseases. A lot of LGBT organizations are completely out of touch of reality. Again, let me repeat this. A lot, I would say 99% of LGBT or equality organizations that are supposed to help gay, bi, trans people, they're out of touch with reality. Many of these leaders are themselves HIV positive. And I say this with respect, but I also say this with an invitation to a higher standard, that the people that are HIV positive, they will not tell us the good advice that prevents us, that protects us from making the same mistakes that they do. And because we don't know who these people are, we only hear about this really crazy advice that's being perpetuated in the community, that anal intercourse is healthy, that it is normal. Look into biology, study physiology, look into blood sepsis, use your intellect. Do not listen to hearsay. Again, that is nonsense. Do not listen to that. And finally, let me end with a statement. There's a reason why we struggle in relationships in gay community. There's a reason, and that reason has to do with getting away with murder in our behaviors. We are getting away with treating each other like objects. We are getting away with mutilating each other's bodies, and we have taken the concept of sexuality way too far, way too far. And we need a retraction from all those dysfunctional ways of life. We need to find a way that works as sexual practice, that does not mutilate our bodies, that does not expose us to sepsis of the blood and contamination and all kinds of slew of diseases. And the only way to do that is by studying physiology, studying sexuality and the psychology of it, and do not listen to the leaders of the LGBT movement, because they are themselves polluted with misinformation and with very poor standards, and who themselves are single and frustrated.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? So let me tell you this. Do not listen to them. Here is a sodomite who had experience for years telling you almost all the leaders are riddled with sexual diseases. I shouldn't say sexual diseases, sodomite diseases. They are all riddled with sodomite diseases. That's what he's telling you. And this is the reason why, again, my dear brethren, we warn you, do not be fooled. Amen? Now quickly, here is the document. Let me give you a brief analysis about this document. When I read it, what I found.
But I mean, now we still have to ask Jason Jones if he wears pampers.
Amen. 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 That is a factor. That is a fact. They come to ridicule you. Ask them, are you wearing diapers? It should confound the fool with his folly. Okay, now, here is the point. An investigation of the 14-page document, when they investigated it, became to an analysis of its integrity on the issue of the body laws. Point number one, the document uses defective logic to pursue its rationalization for the positions that the document take. Point number two, the document has a natural bias towards anal sex. Point number three, the document is not entirely truthful to facts and history of the body laws. Point number four, the document is swayed by current, prevailing, liberal, cultural, Marxist ideas. Point number five, the document is consciously defensive. Is consciously defensive about the defense it takes on the final position of the body laws. In other words, they change certain clauses and they are deceptive as to why they do it. Point number six, the document deliberately yet subtly justifies anal sex as legitimate sexual intercourse. Point number seven, the document shows total disregard for the influence of the Bible concerning sodomy in Western culture. Point number eight, the document shows no regard for the known physical health and mental health problems, issues, and defects of unnatural anal sex. Point number nine, phrased as a judicial court document to excuse anal sex in the estimation of the courts, the higher law, and the higher court upon which all judicial systems are based are totally disregarded. So they disregard God's law, they disregard God's law, yet they like to refer to it in their documents. Why you didn't do that here? Right, so here is the first point. First point here now. There is something called what? Reason defeating contextual rules. You have your reason set up to defend yourself. So as you start to defend yourself, they say discrimination. So when they say discrimination, they catch you. You have to reason out how that is not discrimination before you can answer them. But when you start to do that, they already throw four more arguments at you. So they have certain words that are reason defeating contextual words. In this case, in this document, the word is consent. So two persons are having immorality. And they say, they are consenting adults. Now you have to think, well, they agree and they are adults. They use that to defeat your intellect, to defeat your reasoning, consenting adults. For that reason, a document with only 14 pages uses consent 13 times. Consensual 4 times. Consenting 7 times. Consenting adults, 7 times. Non-consensual, 8 times. Non-consenting, 2 times. Watch me, an accumulation of how much? 42 times for a 14-page document. When they finish it, you will draw you out with the word consent. Did you get that? Yes. And consenting adults. And I tell you, justices, don't try to fool us with that. Yes. You may fool evangelicals, but not Tuthians. Yes. Because we follow the truth. Yes. So, let us then therefore look at the word consent. What do you say? Yes. Let us then therefore look at how we use it and what we say. Watch me now. I am going to read this for you carefully. Page 3 of the document. But I wrote out everything here that I'm going to be saying, so you will get the quotation in this paper itself when you get this paper. Watch this, I quote quickly. The claimants, which is Jason Jones, the claimant's ultimate position is that the court should read into section 13(2) of the Act the words without consent, while simultaneously severing identified words from section 16 and reading in the words consenting persons at section 16(2) B of the Act. The intended result being to ensure that the identified acts are only criminalized where there is an absence of consent. So they're using their magic word, what? Consent. And they have a practice called severing, reading in. Severing, cut off, reading in. Read something in. This phrase is something legal in law, especially coming from Canada. And this severing, reading in, half of the document is used to justify why they do that. So it's such a boring jargon. We can go into it and show why it is wrong, huh? We can do that. But this is not for church now. So here's the point. Let's read how the judge severed and read it. Let's read their own draft. In the note, if we look at the end of the document here, in the order they give the government. The order they give the government. Next. First one. The bold is what they read in to it. 3.1. A person commits the offense of burglary. This is the new law. Is liable on conviction to imprisonment for 25 years. This is how the new law is phrased. 2. In this section, burglary means sexual intercourse without consent per annum. Yeah. By a male person with a male person or a male person with a female person. So what they have effectively done is change the definition of the word what? Burglary to mean it is only burglary if it is what? Without consent. By adding in the phrase what? Without consent. So if you meet two sodomites and the sodomites are doing it, you'll say it's not burglary. It's not burglary. Because it is what? You didn't do it what? Without consent. Do you see what they have done? Did you see what they have done? That is what the judge has done. They think you're stupid, they can't understand. Next one. Next one. Let's look at some severing now. I'm still reading it. Let's look at some severing now. Watch the next one. 16A. A person who commits an act of serious indecency on or towards another is liable on conviction to imprisonment for 5 years. 2. Subsection 1 does not apply to an act of serious indecency committed in private between A, a husband and his wife, B, a male person and a female person get cut off, B, consenting persons. So if that's a crime, it's done by what? Consenting persons. It's not serious indecency. So take a rat. I don't want to fire your imagination. But it is serious what? Indecency. But if it is done by what? Consenting persons, each of whom is 16 years of age or more, they cut off. Both of whom consent to the commission of the act. They didn't need that because they already have one. Consented. Or, well, that's something else. So by this, they can do any serious one. Indecency, once they want, consent is not wrong. So the judge has now defined morality. Who alone has the right to do it? What did Brother Shannon show? That's the point. Next. Let's look at the logic of consenting others.
What can the government do to deal with this illegal?
What can the government do?
Why is that illegal in the first place?
Something that happened in Canada years ago made it become a precedent. Now we know the systems of law and the survivors are getting corrupt. So it happened in Canada years ago. It has become a precedent, others start copying it. So they're following it as precedents. But what the government can do is to pass a law stating the most you can do as a magistrate is to give us a note with an order that is non-binding on Parliament. That Parliament could discuss, and if Parliament say yes, pass it. If Parliament say no, don't pass it. But it must be non-binding. So this is binding. And if the Attorney General say no, they could jail him for contempt of court. Yes. You, Mr. Attorney General, and you're going to the Privy Council. I am warning you, Government of Trinidad and Tobago. Leave everything just so. Don't go to the Privy Council, they'll make it even worse. Don't set up yourself for folly and then come and say, well, it's not us, it's the Privy Council. We'll blame you also. Don't go to the Privy Council, leave it so. Because they plan to go further. And it's when you're going further in the law, that's when trouble starts. You deal with it. So, let's check the logic of consent. Because we are looking at what? Flawed judicial logic. Let's look at the logic of consent in other words. Right. The logic of consenting adults is no justification for the decriminalization of robbery, because that logic can justifiably be applied to other offenses of sexual and other nature. 1. It can reasonably apply to prostitution, since this is sexual activity of an adult, consenting, private nature. So you take that, you say it is consenting adults, and it's in private, then prostitution is okay. Did you see that? Because consenting adults in private is also what? Prostitution. 2. It can reasonably apply to incestuous laws once the participants are adults who consent and engage in private. So a mother who is 42 years old and her son who is 20 years old, or a father who is 42 years old, and his daughter who is 20 years old, or a brother who is 25 years old, and a sister who is 20 years old, or a sister who is 22 years old, and a sister who is 20 years old, or a brother who is 45 years old, and another brother who is 35 years old. All of them can practice incest, and it still is consenting adults in what? So what do we have here? Incest is justified by this. Did you just see that, my dear brother? Did you just see that? Next point. It can also apply to mutual consent between adults who mutilate each other in sadomasochistic bloodletting with knives and other harmful instruments in private. So two men get together, go in private, pull out knives, and say, let us cut up one another. They get pleasure out of the pain and the bloodletting. And they start cutting up one another, and blood flowing, whipping and softening. Okay, whipping one another, and the blood flowing, and they're doing it. Do you know when they're doing it, what that means? Since they're what? Consenting what? Adults in what? Private, they can practice what? Self-mutilation. Did you see that? Did you see the logic? It can also apply to adults using trained animals to so and so and so and so, and so and so and so and so, once they mutually agree or consent to let their animals do so in private to each other. So that would mean couples animal sex should pass through. Although the judge may protest that those extremisms we have pointed out were not his intent when he revised the law, who is to say that those who so applied are not fighting for their freedom, fighting for their rights, fighting for equal opportunity, and fighting for non-discrimination? Who is to say they are not doing that? And that's exactly what they will claim. Yes, my dear sister.
So, Brother Medina, how the dog will consent? One bag for yes, two bags for no?
The owner of the dog is the one giving the consent. It says adult.
I was just wondering.
Consenting adult. They just using the dog as the tool.
Because just in the week there, right? Somebody sent something to me on Facebook now.
Yes.
And a man was arrested in some country, Canada, for having intercourse with over 300 dogs. He was a vet. And his defense was the dog consent. So I want to know if it's one bag for yes and two bags for no. Because the owners, when the owners found out, the owners were up in arms and they take him to court and these things. So
let me add to that one. Watch. If the logic applies to robbery, then it also applies to other sexual offenses that fits into the mold of consenting adults and in private. The fact that the moral fabric of society has by this started to descend with the dogs will be of no consequence to the judge, since he has shown no such concerns in his document. Do you get up there, my dear? Watch me. Watch the next one. Next one. Yes.
I just wanted to say that if it is so, right, and it's among consenting adults, then that would mean that for the man who decided to die and he wanted to give consent, necrophilia, right? The man who decided, well, I gave consent before I died and this man could have sex with me, and they do that actually in Sweden. And also in North too, I will tell you that, but they actually do it. So then that justifies they're wrong to have sex with the dead, but let the man consent before he died. So is it really, it opens a red can of worms.
Right, so you see all of that is what is wrong when you use the word consent and consenting what? Adults. Since you're trying to defend the indefensible, what do? You destroy your logic. Brother and then sister, yes.
I just wanted to say, similarly, the same thing the sister was saying on the law of the burglary laws, because here it is, before they had something like a demonstration. I remember in Trinidad here, but it wasn't too long, I can't quote the years and months, but they used to bag the head, put a bag on the head, and it was also consented by the two people. So these laws is going to say that to the judges that it was okay to kill, but for me there with the law and coveting, well, the law must come in because it's all about going against the law. So we're going to stay on the law since that they're making it a law. But brother, this is the law that is going to make to kill people and say it is okay? Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Concerning the child before, right? They were showing how the same logic could be used for all those other sexual sins, right?
Yes.
Now, and the judge claiming that that wasn't his intention in reading it and severing, right?
Yes.
But in the document, right? In the same ruling in the document, the lawyer for the state told him, and I will read a piece of the section, the lawyer for the state told him that that logic that he's using going to cause going to show up deficiencies in other of our marriage acts and the Equal Opportunity Acts. I'll read it. It says, the court must be careful, this is the defendant, the state attorney saying that. The court must be careful that any order it makes does not make unintended consequences on other legislation, as any severance or reading in might have an impact on other legislation, such as the Immigration Act, because the Immigration Act shows, certain sodomites can come into the country. So the defendant is telling the judge it will show up these deficiencies in the Immigration Act, the Children's Act. It might also show up deficiencies in the Equal Opportunities Act. They will have to change the definition of gender. The Marriage Act, male and male can marriage now. The Matrimonial Proceedings and Property Act, the Cohabitation and Relationships Act, and the Domestic Violence Act. So the state attorney did tell him that this severing and reading that he's doing it will show up deficiencies in these other acts, and they will have to change it as well. So while he's claiming, oh, that is not his intention, he was warned that this would be the result of the reading and severing it.
Only that the state attorney should not call those deficiencies, because in those other acts, those things are not deficiencies. The deficiency is what was brought in by Mr. Rampasad himself. So at least they should have called it another name and not deficiency. But if you really just want to deal with burglary, what does that have to do with marriage? You're doing your burglary in private already. If a man slap a man on the street for money, and a man slap a man in a room for sex, it is still a man slap a man? Yes. And it's still against the law. What do you say? Yes. Why you have to tie it into sex? But to fool our minds? Now watch this. If you give consent to your son who is 8 years old, it cannot work. He is not an adult. He must be an adult, they said. Page 3 of the same document here. The court's findings that section 13 and 16 of the Sexual Offences Act, chapters 11, 28, the Act, are unconstitutional to the extent that they criminalize consensual sexual conduct between adults. Here is the point. It is unconstitutional because it criminalizes, here is the real point, consensual sexual conduct between adults. The key word here is consensual, and the other word here is adults. Consenting adults. Now let's look at the issue of consenting adults and the Constitution. Ready? Yes. Point number one. The position taken by the court's previous finding is highly erroneous for various reasons. Number one, the clauses of the law does not target a community. A false definition of burglary as done by people. It does not target an individual or individuals. No such names are in the law. It targets certain unnatural sexual acts, whether consent or not, by adults. Watch this now. Watch this. Given the fact that consent is simply agreement, okay? Brother Kwame, do you consent to take this? Yes, so you agree. That's the only word consent means. Agree. Given the fact that consent is simply agreement between people, adults in this case, the mere fact of consenting does not violate any constitutional provisions. Everything done, legal or illegal, are done by consent. Thus, consent between adults, or even between children, or even the prohibition of things that are always done by consent, does not itself violate any constitutional provision. For example, if you're going to steal, do you not have to consent to steal? Yes. But look, stealing is against the law. The issue they make is not what? Consent. Is that understood? Yes. If two persons are going to get a divorce, must not there be consent in an adultery before? Yes. So look, the state gives a whole set of laws to deal with adultery, but the issue is not consent. Look again. If somebody decides to murder a person, must they not consent to do it? Is it not against the law? Yes. Yes. But look, the issue there is not what? Consent. So to raise the issue of consent is a boogeyman. Yeah. You see, you, Mr. Justice, and you lawyers, raising an issue of consent does not violate any constitutional provisions. There is no right to consent in private. There is no freedom to consent in private. The Constitution does not understandably address these senseless issues. What is done by the exercising of consent in private, if it violates the rights of others, injures the health and well-being of participants or others, and is deleterious to society in an evident way, this is what laws related to the Constitution address. So you write a law. The law is related to the Constitution. Those laws address that, not the Constitution. Are you listening to me, my dear brother? In this case, burglary, whether by consent between people or without mutual consent, which will be unnatural rape, all are injurious to the health and consequentially affect the moral fabric of society. Therefore, it is not an issue of consent. So you want to write something about consent, you write a law. Okay? Like how you have in the law what you read in consenting adults. You put that in the law. But the reason why you have to put that in the law is that is not related to the Constitution. Because according to the Constitution, everything, good or bad, is by what? Consent. So for you to make and say, that's a constitutional issue, if they do it by consent, you're going against the Constitution. No! Because the Constitution takes into consideration, they do things what? By consent, you understand? Or things happen by what? Non-consent. So the Constitution is not the issue there. This is the reason why this chart shows us that burglary laws does not violate what? And consent between adults in private is not a what? Constitutional issue. Do you get that point? It's not a constitutional issue. To raise it as a constitutional issue was one of those defeative kind of words they use to fool us. Watch this. Quickly. Next shot. Watch this. And this may be applicable to the woman attorney at law who tried to fool people about the roots of abhorrence for burglary. One of the strongest reasons why they say they have to change it is because of the roots of abhorrence for burglary. That's what they do. They say that is the reason why they have to reword it. Because of the roots of abhorrence for homosexuals, they put it. Right? But I show the roots of abhorrence for burglary. They name it the roots of abhorrence for homosexuals. Let me read it to you on page 11. Listen to this quickly. We're stopping here now. Don't be restless. The defendant has failed to establish any legitimate legislative purpose in conformity with the Constitution in forbidding sexual intercourse per annum between consenting adults. Get the words again. The magic word, what? Consenting adults. The genesis of the section, the burglary laws, was traced by this court in its earlier decision. Born out of abhorrence shown towards homosexuals, the section asserted that sexual intercourse per annum in a category of its own. So they are telling us the burglary laws were born out of abhorrence for what? Homosexuals, therefore making the people the object of the laws. And not the act. They lied. What did I say they do? They lied. Listen to me. This is grossly erroneous. Let's try something here. Turn to Leviticus 18. I won't read all the verses, but at least let's read a couple of verses and watch something.
The law itself cannot be targeted homosexuals because it is burglary between a man and a woman also. So how they can say that trace it right back to that? The very law itself defeats that argument.
Greatly said. Wonderfully said. But let's look at Leviticus 18. We'll read from verse 22. Now here is what you are looking for when you're reading here. You're looking to see if the provision targets sodomites, or if the clause here, the law here that God gave, targets the act. Okay? Let's see if the law targets you all. The act or people. Right? Now here's the point. The laws, watch me, the laws of burglary in the West had a biblical origin in Western culture. And people were not the target of the laws. It was always the act that was targeted. Here are the wordings of the source of the burglary laws in the Bible, proving that it is the act that was targeted and not the people. The laws were meant to stop people from doing the act, not express hate to the people in violation of it. Let's read. You ready for this? Yeah. Watch how God beautifully phrases it here. I tell you, everything in this book is perfect. Verse 22. Let's read. Oh. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with what? Womankind. It is what?
Abomination.
Thou shalt not what? Lie with what? Any beast to what? Defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down there to what? It is confusion. Did he say they are confusion? Did he say they are abomination? What did he say? It. So what is the Lord targeting? Did you not see that? That's right. And that is the root of boundary laws in culture. In Western culture, it's from there. Watch this shocking thing. Basically, people who are in violation of the law became to be abhorrent. The population of Western society learned from God's reprehension for sodomy or buggery in the destruction of a whole region with fires that will burn in hell in the last days as a warning to nations now. So get the idea. The same kind of fire, the same kind of brimstone that will be burning people up in hellfires. Go take a sample and throw it in a whole region. So you take some of the type of fires that will burn in hell, throw it on a region in the past, and destroy them, burn them up there to become ashes, and you say that is an example. Did you see that? You see, that's where we get our reprehension from. Watch this. The court took none of these realities into consideration in a manifestation of its cultural Marxist learning that distances itself from God and things pertaining to the divine, but chose to misrepresent and thereby prejudice, abhorrence for sodomy, buggery, or anal sex as abhorrence for the people doing it. Notwithstanding the penalty of death imposed for the crime of buggery on sodomy, it was a redeemable offense according to the Bible, showing that the target was not the people, but the what? The act of sodomy. Remember Jesus said, the miracles I do, if that was done in Sodom, they would have repent. It showed that the people could what? Repent. So it's not the people God was against. Remember 1 Corinthians 6:19, let me show you what. And such are what? Some of you. Amen? But you are what? But you are what? Sanctified. But you are what? Justified. That's right, my dear brethren. So the Bible shows a person will change. So watch your shot. Watch your shot. The roots of abhorrence of buggery can be traced to God's act of destroying Sodom and its sister cities that were overridden with buggery. Did you catch that? Yes. That's where it comes from in Western culture. Don't come and say abhorrence for sodomites or homosexuals. You're lying. They don't put the people first, they put the what? The act first. It's the act that determines what the people are. So it must start with the what? Act. Before you put the people. But to give me the impression, Christians in the West just hate the people. What about the act? Did it not start with the act? Yes. Why is it that you cause us to lie? Oh yes, I know why. To defend the indefensible is to destroy what? That's why you have to lie. Look again. That destruction took place in the 2nd millennium before Christ was BCE. The next root of abhorrence for buggery is God's laws against sodomy in the 15th century before Christ, which we just read in Leviticus here. The next root of abhorrence for buggery is in Western culture adopting the Bible and Christianity in the what? 1st century after Christ. When Western culture adopt the Bible, adopt Christianity, then Western culture begins to show abhorrence for sodomy and therefore people who practice it. And finally, recognizing its horrible destruction in moral society, that caused people to hate Bobby. Where did they recognize that? In the French Revolution in 1789 after Christ's birth. You tell me your research people couldn't show that? Better you hire us to work in your courts and research for you. You will put your head straight by the grace of God. And finally, by observing its ravishing on the health of its practitioner, that causes us to hate it. What do you say? So don't come and lie to us, amen? Let's just come to the closing. Next chart. Here is how the Bible defines sexual intercourse. The Bible sexual intercourse is between a what? It is what? Copulated contact of what? Between a male and a female. And that is whether by what? Or by? Which is what? Rape. But that is sexual intercourse, according to the Bible. You get that clear, right? It's what Western culture has known sexual intercourse to be for years, even while sodomy was existing. You get that clear? Western society knew this was sexual intercourse even before modernism or cultural Marxism took over the judicial profession. We all knew that this was sexual intercourse. However, the new version of the law, as written by one man, written by who? One man. The judge will remove consensual adult boggery from being boggery and legitimize it as sexual intercourse, quoting them, anal. This means that boggery is only what it is if it's rape or non-consensual. That's absurd. Boggery is not to be defined by whether you consent or not. Is that understood? It is to be defined as the way it is being done. Watch this. A man came to a woman and they fell for each other emotionally. So they went and had sexual intercourse. What do you call it? Sexual intercourse. But another man hiding out by a junction, see a young girl come out from a car at 11:30 p.m. to go home, grabs her, beats her, drags her in the bushes, and takes his private and put it in her private. She goes to the law and tells them I was raped. But the person who she's complaining to, the police woman, she was the one that had sex with the person who she had just fallen in love with. So she comes and says, I was raped. What happened? The man takes his private and he put it in me and it went inside me and I did not consent. What would she say? Rape. But where did private went? Any woman private. But watch any woman. My lover's private went in my private and I consented. Was it rape? No. But isn't it the same act? Yes. Isn't it sexual intercourse? Yes. But one is forceful and one is not? Yes. How come then boggery It's only buggery if it's forceful. The nature of the act doesn't change. You judges think we're stupid. But we want you all to know, you all who's supposed to protect society, you're destroying society. You see, that is what happened when they defend the insensible. What happens? Last shot. Call it sodomy. Call it sexual intercourse for Adam. Or even call it buggery. The act itself is still what it is in reality and has not undergone any new dynamics. Consenting to do it does not make it right or healthy. Amen? Two big men born in a room and they consent to take coke. Does it make them taking the coke right? Because they consent as adults? Because they hide up in a place to do it? In private? What kind of foolishness are they telling us here? Watch this. Being an adult that chooses to do it is not a constitutional provision. And forbidding it does not violate any rights or freedoms. No single judge, no matter how he reasons the law, has any authority under heaven to define what God calls an abomination as something acceptable or as a free exercise of constitutional provisions. Even worse, it flies in the face of God that a common man can change the description of sexual intercourse by adding to it a health-injuring misuse of the sexual organ and the excretory organ, plus other serious offenses, and thus call this also sexual intercourse. Nonsense. Despite, however, they have read, interpreted, or modified the public laws, the judge has now described buggery because of consent between adults as sexual intercourse. This is wrong. It is blasphemy. It is outrageous because it is not sexual intercourse. Neither does any man have the authority to define it thus. You see what? Modified version of sexual intercourse. They will tell you, yes, it is between a male and a female. It is copulative contact of sexual organs. Notice behind it, not a sexual organ. So they tell you, yes, we agree with that. That is sexual intercourse. That's what they are saying. But they're giving you more as to what sexual intercourse is. It says, well, it is between a male and a male, a female and a female. Quoting the document, it is sex per annum, no longer buggery. And other indecencies between same-sex consenting adults, all that is sexual intercourse for them. But for God it is what? Condemned by God. So if I'm a man, this is what Brother Shannon in closing was saying in his study is right. The rights of God. A man using cultural Marxism attacks true sexual intercourse. 6 months later or a few months later, he did research with his people to justify what he was going to do. So now he redefined the law to change what is called buggery. It is only buggery if it is done what? Without consent. But as long as it is done with what? Consent, it's no longer buggery. It's sexual intercourse. He has effectively defined what is sexual intercourse, taking into it what God says is not sexual intercourse. Did you get that? And this is the reason why, as Brother Shannon said, we say the whole thing is wrong. Now we can touch more on this document, but boring. And it doesn't make sense. But in closing, what do we say here? Only God has the authority to define what is sex. Only God has the authority to define what is sex. Amen. Or sexual intercourse. Only God has the authority to say what is buggery. And He has. Our laws in Western society can be traced back to the Word of God. And if your judges are so influenced by cultural Marxism that separates you from God and makes you hate the divine, that you will make judgments that doesn't take Christianity and the source of Western culture into consideration, we can say you're not fit to be judges. And leave us alone. In closing, we ask the government of Trinidad and Tobago. We ask the Attorney General, and we also rebuke the Parasite Equal Opportunities Commission. As a parasite, they're waiting there, waiting to get laws to jail us for speaking against sodomy, which Jason says is the next thing you're going to do. We rebuke that parasitical organization, the Equal Opportunities Commission. We rebuke you. And we ask the government, we know you are fighting to save 1.3 million people and their children from having to pay $14,500 each to preserve just a refinery, which money we don't have. We know you're trying to help us not to pay that, while another group fighting for less than 1%. I think the country should be put before less than 1%. Because we don't have that money to pay. But while you're trying to do that, that is good. But we beseech you, government, don't go to the Privy Council. The Privy Council is already infiltrated with cultural Marxism. They will make it worse. All the judge has done is to redefine sexual intercourse, redefine buggery, leave it so. Just leave it so, don't go further. Leave it so. Because if you go further, you, the government, will be setting yourself up for a fall. And then you will blame the Privy Council. We already know what they will do. Therefore, don't carry all of us for a fall. Is that understood? Find ways to make laws, probably a referendum, to insert something into the Constitution. And that way, they will have to leave us alone. But don't let the Privy Council destroy it. May God have mercy on all of us. Amen.
Long live the Reformation. Let's stand for the closing word of prayer, please. Okay, let us bow our heads and close our eyes for the closing prayer. Let us pray. Dear Almighty God, we are thankful unto you for your many mercies towards us and for the light of truth, that we can fairly look at these circumstances and expose flawed judicial logic. Dear Father, continue to bless us even throughout the rest of the day, is my prayer as I ask these blessings towards us all. May we all take all that have been covered here absorb it, and adjust ourselves to live against these things by understanding the truth and by advancing the truth. In Jesus' name, I ask all these mercies of you with much thanksgiving. Amen. Amen.